Merry Meet Annie here. This is a video response to Corey's video about Team Wicca or Team Witch. I play both teams. Team Witch. To me, witchcraft is folk magic. To me, it feels of the earth, of our heritage as humans, as creatures on the earth. It just feels very powerfully to me that there is history and time, ancientness, animalness, naturalness about it. I think of it as folk magic. I don't think of it as religion, although most witches that I know that would consider the word similarly to what I do see themselves as connected to everything that exists, but don't necessarily need to make a spirituality or a religion out of it. So Team Witch for me, I agree with what you said. You had mentioned you think about the wise people in community, herbalists, healers, those who live naturally. When it comes to Team Witch, it takes me back in time to when human needs and the fulfillment of those needs, I don't want to use the word were simpler, because there certainly wasn't anything simple about finding you didn't have enough to take in at harvest time, or having the floods take your crops away, or your children die, or disease taking your village. There's nothing simple about those times, but perhaps less complicated and more basic, which really speaks to the less complicated and more basic aspects of our natures as humans and humans in community. Team Witch, I see as that ancientness in all of us, a place we can all go. Folk magic. Sometimes folk religion weaving in and around it, because religion certainly did come from that feeling of being one with, aligned with. Team Wicca. I'm a traditionalist by training, with experience with a lot of freeform covens also, and with a lot of solitary practitioner work done amongst the work I've done in community, both being in community and leading within a community. Wicca, to me, I am not one who ever, and in fact, my first coven, the one that initiated me, didn't buy into two things. They didn't buy into the ancient, supposedly ancient historical roots of modern day Wicca, and they didn't buy into the prehistorical matriarchy, goddess-centered religion archetypes. Never were we told that we had something that was being given to us that was ancient in its entirety. So my experience of traditional Wicca was a bit different than even some of my peers at the time. I guess we were a particularly questioning lot who look askance in the face of that right from the beginning, with all respect to the father of our line, who was Gerald Gardner. You have made something beautiful for us, and it is full of prose and poetry and inspiration from all around the world, and it does honor witchcraft, the folk religion, especially of the British Isles, the folk magic, the working with the elements, and, as importantly, intellectual occultism. I didn't invent that word. I stole that description of Wicca from Aidan Kelly, because I am very comfortable describing my religion that I couldn't live without, that inspires me and moves me every moment of my life, as intellectual occultism. I've always been comfortable with that kind of description. So Team Wicca for me is working from that ancient place, the place I would call the place that the witch lives, and building from that a communal structure, a temple in a sense, a way of coming together, blending energy, creating things together, teaching, learning, bonding, supporting, growing together. Team Witch doesn't have dogma, specific beliefs, guidelines, except the very natural, instinctive ones. Team Wicca, full of them. Full of them. With no disrespect to my more modern Wiccan friends who feel there isn't too much in the way of dogma and rules and this is what it is. I'm old school, and it was full and is still full of rules for me, and I thrive on that. I like that structure. Team Witch to me is the ancient roots of knowing. Team Wicca, the religion built around those ancient instincts and a way to bring it to community and communal celebration. So I am very much both. Together at the same time, sometimes more one way or the other, always influenced greatly by both teams. Lots of interesting points made in your video, Corey, and one of the ones that I thought was interesting is you mentioning that Team Witch might be exploring getting to know Team Wicca, dabbling and saying, is that team appealing to me? And one of the things that brings them to the wall is the Rede, which they see as karma. To me, there is no wall between Team Witch and Team Wicca when it comes to the Rede, because I do not conceive of it in any way as karma. The threefold law, the threefold return, to me, is actually ancient and very Team Witch in its origins, because the old ones knew there was nothing you could do that stood alone, that everything you did impacted the energetic, the spiritual, and the emotional worlds. Like a pebble on clear water, dropped with the rings expanding and growing outward. There is nothing that you could do that didn't impact all your conceived levels of reality. Ancient, ancient, witchy, Team Witch knowing. The Rede to me put words around that. It put responsibility around that. Because Team Wicca is communal, it is telling you that think when you do things, because you will impact every level of reality that affects you, others, and indeed existence, the energetic, the emotional, and the spiritual worlds. So to me, in the way the Rede was taught to me, and in the way I embrace it, and in the way it is indeed guided the moral and ethical decisions I have made in my life, hard ones sometimes, there's not the wall between Team Witch and Team Wicca, because I don't get the karmic return philosophy that some lay over the Rede. It is simply not the Rede I know. I don't believe in any form of karma in the Eastern sense. So, the wall doesn't exist between Witch and Wiccan for those who see the Rede the way I do. But I do appreciate how it has been a grinding to a stop, halt, I'm not interested in Team Wicca to others. Mostly because of places like YouTube, where I have learned how the Rede has been interpreted. I also see how it's been put down in books. I know why people are interpreting it the way they are. And I just thank Goddess that I had the opportunity for my elders, when I was a youngster myself, to take me through an in-depth exploration of what is this guidance that the Rede gives us. So there is no wall between Witch and Wiccan for me when it comes to the Rede, because to me the Rede is nothing more than putting words to something the old ones, the witches, always knew. No action stands alone. Me, very much Team Wicca, very much Team Witch. I need to be 1 foot planted firmly in, no, more than that, my entire body immersed in both teams. The other thing you had said in your video was, did we have recommendations for sources? And I'm so concerned that I didn't take the time to look at all the video responses, because maybe you've already gotten these. I apologize if you did. I only noted 2, and one is Aidan Kelly's Inventing Witchcraft. I read it as Inventing Witchcraft, but it was later published as Crafting the Art of Magic. But whatever you find the version of it, Aidan Kelly's book is a good one for getting in. He was able to look rather pragmatically at Gerald Gardner and wasn't fooled by any of the hyperbole, but at the same time had a respect for, regardless of the sources, something had become that mattered. That's how I felt about his book, at least. And the other one I would recommend, and I would be surprised perhaps if you hadn't read it since you've been doing some studying, but that is Ronald Hutton's Triumph of the Moon. Again, because it seems like it's a pretty level-headed acceptance that no matter what something was based in or not, once again we get to the stories and the hyperbole and the showmanship and the egos around those who brought modern paganism into the spotlight, that there was value in what came out of that and what it became, and in a sense what it continues becoming. So those 2 books are 2 that I recommend, and I do apologize if you've already had tons of recommendations for those 2 books, but I didn't want to recommend anything that wasn't sitting on my bookshelf at the moment. Mostly because I don't trust my memory, but also because I wanted to have the reference at hand for you. Very interesting conversation. Now I'm all excited to get this uploading so that I can go look at the other video responses, because I've seen a couple of them in my queue. Very interesting discussion. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Merry part.